Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Creative Minds. Joining me here today is Yazan Harasis. So, Yazan, can you first of all tell us a bit more about who you are and what is it that you do?
Sure. And, thank you so much, Aida, for having me on. And,
Of course.
it's a great show, and I really enjoy watching it. And I'm honored to be a part of it. So, yeah, my name is Yazan Harasis. I'm um, uh, I'm Jordanian, proud Jordanian. We grew up in Jordan, grew up in the U.S., grew up in the U.K., but not grew up, but lived in the U.K. But now I'm back here in the U.S. I'm founded a company called Power Edison and EV Edison, and basically an entrepreneur in the clean energy space.
Mm,
And I've been doing that for about 6 years now, and enjoying it a lot.
amazing. And just you did not mention that you were chosen to be one of the lead in in the Forbes 30 under 30, especially for energy. So that's just itself is amazing. And I want to
Thank
ask you
you.
more about that. Um,
Sure.
but you said you've been in clean energy specifically for the past 6 years. I'd like to, I'm very much interested in how that journey or that interest kind of grew on you to want to pursue that and then be kind of in Power Edison and create that and more about the company as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, clean energy is something I really valued a lot and knew the importance of early on, especially living in Jordan and
Mm,
a country that doesn't have a lot of resources like its neighbors in the region.
mm,
And I always feel that a way to develop as a nation a very important foundation is having access to clean, cheap electricity. And that's very important for a country to have. And um, for Jordan or any other developing country that lacks the resources of oil and natural gas and things like that, clean energy is the way forward. Um, so clean energy, I think I love working on big problems, and that climate change and things like that are a huge problem. I would argue one of the biggest problems we have in society today, that's on Earth. So I love working on big problems, trying to solve it, trying to have a small contribution in that, and to avoid, you know, in global warming and climate change and changing of weathers and more storms and more flooding. So I just feel like it's just a huge problem to tackle, and that's what I like to work on.
awesome. And so two questions came up after you
Mhm.
shared this. First of all, can you specify, because some people might not be aware of what you mean by clean energy. So can you just give us an understanding what clean energy means?
Yeah, clean energy is basically generating energy without emissions. So, and some people say, renewable energy. Renewable energy basically means utilizing the resources that are renewable in nature, basically wind, solar, things like that. That really you can't deplete the energy from the sun. So finding a way to capture that energy without diving into resources that are limited in nature, like oil in the ground and natural gas, which as much as you have, it's bound to end soon. So that's what we mean by renewable resources.
Okay, perfect. And the second question comes here. I've been looking more into clean energy ever since I was a kid. I was very much interested in
Hmm.
climate change and global warming and how can you reduce that. And there was one recent study that I came across, which is a very rare one, which says that there's a scientist, honestly, I'm not sure of his name, but he's done a lot
Hmm.
of research and he was showing that climate change is not an actual thing, the global warming is not an actual thing. And he's been doing some tests on the ground and different levels of layers in the ground, and he says
Hmm.
that this is part of it's part of nature and it has nothing to do with global warming. What are your thoughts, and what are things that are validating that this is due to climate change, to global warming, sorry.
Yeah, I think as with anything, there are always some scientists that try to argue that another viewpoint, just like climate change, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's whatever the case may be. But you look at what the consensus is. So consensus is today, 99% of the scientists today say that no, global warming is because of human activities, and it's directly related to that. And it really started accelerating after the Industrial Revolution, when factories and people are burning oils and all this stuff. So you can see a direct relationship between human activity and then the increase in global temperatures. Yes, global temperatures increase over a long period of time, but when you zoom in into, okay, what happened between the 1910 to 2022, like, no, there's a specific increase, and that's related to countries becoming more developed and the Industrial Revolution and all this stuff, and starting extracting oil from the ground and burning it. So yeah, there's a direct relationship because of that.
Okay, so can you tell us a bit more about then what Power Edison does? Because you are into clean energy. So through Power Edison, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, Power Edison is focused on battery technology, and why that's important is we've come a long way in terms of solar and wind and things like that. So right now, people are deploying solar like crazy, wind as well, offshore wind, things like that, which is fantastic. But the problem is with renewables is that we call them intermittent resources, meaning you can't call upon solar as I want solar at the middle of the night. I want to use energy. Like, okay, there's no sun. What are you? You can't use it. Oh, wind, the same thing. Wind's not blowing. Sorry, you're out of luck. So we need to find ways to store the energy that comes from those resources, and then use them at a time where we don't need it. So carrying a battery with solar panels, you generate excess energy from the solar panels, you store them in a battery, and then use them at night. You discharge the battery and use it at night. That way, you're completely living 100% off of clean energy.
Amazing.
So so Power Edison is really focused on that. Solar and wind have come a long way, and there's still some room for development, but now battery technology and energy storage more generally is kind of the new thing.
But is that considered renewable though? Because you're using battery and it's not the actual source itself.
Yeah, batteries, it's still in its early stages in terms of the development and recycling and things like that. For example, lead acid batteries are like 95% or something like that recyclable. So you're not really mining a lot of metals to produce new lead acid batteries, you're just using the old one and recycle those. And that's the same pathway that lithium ion or other battery technologies are doing. And there are also a lot of developments around not using rare earth metals and mining and cobalt and things like that really harm the environment and harm people that are mining it in different countries around the world. So there's an active activities just to steer away from using those metals, using things that are more abundant. You can get them easier, you can recycle them easier, and using that instead. So it's a technology that's ever developing.
Amazing. And that's kind of briefly about what you're doing with Power Edison. But for me, I'm very much interested about your story. So you said you're in the Middle East and traveled to the US and then the UK, and now you're back in the US. So do you for you to be so driven in the field of clean energy, was it something that you kind of built off on as a kid? Was it something that you always found yourself so much driven into?
No, I mean, it's funny, drive and passion. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint where it came from. It's one of those things that are a bit weird. Some people have it, some people don't. And I argue that passion and a love for something, everybody has passion and love for something, but a few of us are fortunate enough to figure that out in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s. And if you figure that out, you're truly blessed, in my opinion. And if you didn't figure that out, then you should really spend time trying to figure that out, because unless you do, it's really not, the activities that you do is really not worth it. You want to work in something that you're driven, you're passionate, and that's the only way you'll succeed in that subject. So my passion for clean energy, I'm lucky enough to say that it wasn't like a eureka moment. It's something that you work on and you read more about, and you talk to people, and different professors, they influence you. And I had a seed that I loved it when I was living in Jordan, but when I went to the UK and studied in my university, and I did mechanical engineering, but there was a specialization in sustainable energy. And I took that, and one of my professors, I think as with anybody else, the professors and teachers really influence your thinking a lot. So I had an amazing professor, really opened my eyes, really made me want to read more and learn more about it. And that's how it sort of springboarded into where I am today.
Amazing. And now with finding that passion, you said it did not just come overnight, but kind of grew up on you. Why did you decide that, this passion is one that is worth pursuing? Because I believe you can have different passions and many passions, right? But this is the one that you stuck with and believed so much in that you're actually continuing to follow and create something around that. Why was it that specifically it?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. Like I said before, just the large impact that it has on society. So I love working on big problem statements, and I feel I get tremendous value out of that. It's like, hey, I'm contributing to something that's bigger than myself. So that's huge for me. And also, it's the direct results you see. Is like, okay, hey, if I put a solar panel, if I put a wind farm, if I do this, if I do that, I'm actively contributing into lowering emissions, trying to stop increase in temperatures globally. So it's the direct benefits that I see. It's it drives me. It's like a cycle. You see, you try to work on something, you see the benefits, and then it repeats the cycle.
Yeah. And then, so that's kind of what got you to pursue that, and to work on that Power Edison. So as you were going through that, I'm pretty sure there's certain moments in your life where questioning life and questioning, is this the path that I want to take? Is it not? Is it worth the effort and energy? So can you give us a time where it was you're questioning what you care about, you're questioning your goal? It's we see the end result now. We see that you're passionate and we see that you're doing something about it. But what about the times where you're still starting off, still trying to find your co-founder or to build up your team? It's not easy. What were some of the challenges that you kind of faced during that time?
Many challenges. I think I heard something the other day, and it really resonated with me. It's somebody was saying, you need to give yourself permission to take time, and things take time, and things take time to develop. So you can't be in your early 20s or 30s or whatever the case may be, and work on something, and it's taking a bit longer than you would like, and it's really frustrating you. But that's the nature of life. Everything takes time. Some things take more time than others, and you just need to have the conviction that things are going to work out if I do things the right way. And there were plenty of times where it's like, you know what, it's been a year, 2, 5, and it's just, it's maybe it's time to find something else, or to try to tackle it a different way. And I would encourage everybody to do that. Try to take a step back and try to reevaluate where you are. But if you have a strong passion for it, and you believe you're doing things the right way, and you ask around and try to figure out if you're doing it the right way, and that's the way you figure out no, I want to stay in this. I think I'm doing things the right way, or I think I'm doing 90% of the things I'm doing are the right tasks and activities. So I'm just going to stick with it.
Mm. So what kept you going on when you felt those questioning moments in life where like, should I continue? Should I stop? Like what kept you, what was the mindset that you had that was like, no, it's worth it. Let's continue. Let's try this thing. Like how did that, what was something that you used to think a lot of?
Yeah, it's very difficult, and I still didn't master this. But the thing that I think was the best tool for me is to appreciate the small milestones.
Mm.
And I have a big goal, and like, oh, my goal is, for example, I want to build a billion-dollar company. Okay. But if that's your goal and you don't have any interim milestones and interim goals, you're going to drive yourself crazy because you're never going to be truly happy until you think that you achieve that huge milestone. And who knows if that milestone is ever going to come? What if it doesn't come? And you're just spending your life miserably and no, I want to get to this goal. So I think that the best thing to do as an entrepreneur or anybody who wants to accomplish a big goal is just to section things off. Like, okay, what are your goals this week? What are your goals this month? What are your goals this year? And 9 times out of 10, people achieve goals, but they brush it aside. So I think it's very important to, once you achieve something in life, whatever it is, it's getting a good grade in school, getting accepted into university, graduating. Those are big milestones, and they should be celebrated and take time to soak them in. That would be like one of my biggest things to say.
Cool. And just a question here is, why did you decide to like open a company alone? Like, why didn't you decide to join an existing company that is already close to what it is that you're trying to achieve, which is create a bigger impact in the world towards clean energy and sustainable through sustainable resources? Like, why create your own? Why follow this difficult path?
Yeah, it's so I was when I first graduated, I joined the big energy company here in New Jersey, and we worked there for a year with some of my colleagues, and then me and some of my colleagues decided to leave and form Power Edison the next day. You know, big companies, they're amazing. It's very it's an easy environment to be in, but the problem with big companies, I feel, is that they're not nimble, and they don't pivot fast, they don't move fast, and especially in a world where, or especially in a field, in our field, that's very, very dynamic in nature. So you can't be a huge company and doing different things, and it's like trying to steer a big ship in a dynamic marketplace. Like, you really can't. That's it. You're going this direction. It's too late. You can't really move it into this direction in a month or two. So I felt like it was imperative to be nimble, to be a small company. You're doing this, no, pivot to this, pivot to this, pivot to this, try this, try that. And that's what we did. So and it proved itself to be successful.
How does it prove that it's successful to do that?
Yeah, it's basically there were some, for example, if you work on a project where the whole industry says, yeah, let's do this project, let's build renewable energies in this location because of the economics and because of the impact. And then the whole industry rushes to do that, and then you're not first in line, and things don't work out the way you thought it would. And if a big company already committed resources of, no, we're doing this, we're building here, we got the permits, we got the construction, we got the engineering. And for a small company, it's like, no, let me build over there, let me do this, let me do that. So it's the momentum or the inertia of big companies that it really is difficult to be maneuverable and to do different things within the market. So that's, like a prime example of that.
And you did mention you went through the route of entrepreneurship. I was
Hmm.
in one event where um, someone did mention that entrepreneurship is a mindset more than it is an actual thing. So how did
Hmm.
you end up building up your mindset in a way where you can stay strong and continue building the company and believing in that company? So yeah, what would you say the mindset?
Yeah, entrepreneurship.
Yes. Yeah.
It's funny. It's really about, and I always say this. It's really about the people around you. Um,
Mm.
it's not about yourself. It's about
Yeah.
who you surround yourself with,
Yeah.
and that's true for anything in life. If you're surrounded by negative people that
Mm.
always like, oh, why'd you do this? Why don't you do this? It's so much easier. No, you're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong. It's really about the people. Um,
Mm.
and in Arabic, there's an expression, "sahib sahib," which means your friend is somebody who pulls you in different directions. So if you have a bad friend and have negative thoughts and things like that, they're going to pull you into the wrong direction. So entrepreneurship and on a personal life, having people around you that motivate you and that you see things in them that you want to instill in yourself is
Mm.
very important. Entrepreneurship, in a business sense, is surrounding yourself with an amazing team that motivate each other and hold each other accountable.
Mm.
Um, that's what keeps things going. Otherwise, you just stall as an
Mm.
entrepreneur. And
Mm.
if you have uh, a bad team around you and negative energy and everybody's working against you and butting heads, then no, it's never gonna work.
Yeah. So how do you build that? So how were you able to find your team and build that team up?
It's really through trial and error. It's about meeting
Mm.
people. Sometimes you think, I met this person for 30 minutes or an hour, and I think they would be a great addition to the team.
Mm.
And afterwards, you think, you know what, the way they work, it's not because it's something bad about them or something bad about yourself. It's just
Mm.
chemistry. Team
Mm.
chemistry sometimes doesn't work out.
Mm.
Um, so it's really about trial and error, trying people out, seeing how they work, seeing how you work together. If
Mm.
you like them, if they like you, and then there's no shame in just, what, things didn't work out. I'd
Yeah.
rather do this. I'd rather stay in arm's length and do consulting, for example, not be embedded in the team. So there's different ways around it, but
Mm.
yeah, that's how you would do it. Just trying things out, and unless you try them out, you'll never know
Yeah.
if they truly
So
work.
is there specific specs or yeah, I would say specs. Are there specific specs that you look for when you're looking to have someone join you on your team? Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe I think the most important spec is a passion, a willingness and a passion to learn more and just
Mm.
trying to drink from the fire hose, as they say.
Mm.
Like you want to learn about the culture, the mission of a company, what
Mm.
you're working on. So that's the most important thing. I feel like if you come into any scenario and you think that like, I know everything, don't talk to me, don't do this, I'll tell you what to do, then you'll never be successful.
Mm.
Um, if you come in with a humble mindset
Mm.
and you say, hey, I'm here to learn, I want to contribute my knowledge and my suggestions and things like that, and that's amazing.
Mm.
But just having that humble mindset and coming in and having a passion to learn more and always improve yourself is kind of the number one spec I see.
Awesome. And you mentioned passion so many different times. Um,
Yeah.
what is passion? What is passion? What does it mean?
Oh my God. Passion is, uh, I think, a for love to do something or to work in something that uh, truly makes you happy, and it's something that you don't mind working in that field or for that specific thing, um, days on end and months on end and years on end, because at that point, it's not really work. It's more about it's something else. It's you're not working because you have to. You're working because you want to on something, and that could be anything. That's a passion for meeting new people and interviewing people and having a podcast, or that's a passion for clean energy, or that's a passion for music or sports or whatever the case may be. Where all these, for example, all these amazing athletes in the world, it's a passion. They're not training because they love training. They love the sport and they're ingratiated in it, and it's just a different mindset that you tap into when you're working on something you're passionate for.
Do you think that you're born with specific passions, or passions grow on you?
No, I think passions grow on you. And my biggest piece of advice for young people, especially in their like 16, 17, and they always say like, hey, I really don't know what I want to do. And I'm so worried, and I'm so, my mind is going 1,000 miles per hour. I need to figure out what I want to do in life. That grade 11, grade 12, like, oh, what am I going to study? What am I going to apply for?
Yeah.
And the key is to try different things out, because you'll never know what your passion is if you're not exposed to many things. So my advice always has been, start with figuring out what you like and what you don't like. And the only way you can do that is exposing yourself to different things, whether that's arts or sciences or languages or whatever the case may be. You need to figure out what you want to do, and you need to actively work on what your passion is in life, because passion is something that's gradual. It's been developing over the years, and with time, you need to expose yourself to different things, read about different things, and then that's how you really build passion for a subject. So if you're a college student and you're your first year, like, I think a big problem is, getting into university and then going straight into medicine, or going straight into engineering, going straight and this better than everybody. You went to the same path of engineering and things like that, just like me. It's really about, take courses, take different things, see what you like. Maybe you don't like medicine, and even though you're super smart, but you really don't like organic chemistry and biology and you need to expose yourself to a lot of things, and then you decide what you like to do and what you're passionate about.
Okay, so as you were saying this, like, I was thinking a lot about, I know this might be a bit philosophical, but you said try different things, try and find what you like. So technically, how do you know what you like?
Like I said, it's something that it's not a eureka moment. It's really something you build gradually. Sometimes you don't even think you grew up with this. It's not passion at that point, but a certain inclination to like something at that. So it's very gradual, and some people don't even recognize it. And it doesn't crystallize with people a lot of the time, or they just, it's something they put on the back burner. They just consider it a hobby more than anything else, and they don't take that leap of faith, like, no, I want to really work on this full time, or I want to do this more often, just because there's maybe a fear of the unknown a bit. And no, I have my job. I have health insurance. I'm good. I'm getting a paycheck every month. So that sort of constrains yourself into a certain box, and like, no, you know what? I'll just keep this on the side. I don't want to open that box and see what's in there. But yeah, it's a good point. I don't know where it stems from or where it comes from. I think it is gradual. Something maybe the surrounding inserts in you, like parents or teachers or friends or something like that. But I think it's from the environment around you that instills it.
And what do you think, which is kind of towards passion and like happiness, what do you think is like the purpose of life?
I think the purpose of life is to leave this earth a bit better than the way you came into it.
Mm.
Um, so having an impact on something, and that impact could be in 1,000 different ways. It doesn't have to be through specific fields, but
Mm.
uh, I believe the purpose of life is just to leave it a bit better. It doesn't have to be a humongous change, but
Mm.
a bit better than the way you came into it, and
Mm.
contributing in your own way
Mm.
to that. I think that's really the meaning of life.
Mm. So why do we fight and work so hard to make something out of ourselves if it's all we need to do is make this small positive impact in this world? Like, why do you want to be famous? Why do you want to be rich? Why do you want to have all those things, external validation to feel that life has a meaning or has purpose?
Yeah, it's a great question, and if I know the answer, I'll let you know. But I always ask that to my friends in England.
Mm.
Uh, in England, it's you graduate. It's kind of a different dynamic
Mm.
than the U.S. Like in England, maybe a bit in Canada as well, where England they have um, healthcare taken care of. College tuitions are much less than the
Mm.
U.S. Um, so that social fabric exists in England more so than the U.S.
Mm.
And with that, I felt that people are more comfortable taking an easy life. You know what? I go in, I do 8 to 4,
Mm.
I get 3 weeks of vacation,
Mm.
and I'm done. And I'm very happy in my life.
Mm.
In the US, like, no, there's a different mindset. Like, I want to get to the top. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to work 70 hours a week. Uh, Maybe because that social fabric doesn't exist in a
Mm.
way, or it's very difficult to have it over a country like the US.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, uh, I think it's a product of where you live. More countries like Norwegian countries and European countries, I feel like they're more relaxed
Yeah.
generally. And I
Yeah.
feel like countries like the US, like, no, I want to get to the top and I want to
Yeah.
be a billionaire and I want,
Yeah.
so who knows?
Yeah. So where do you find yourself drifting more towards now that you're living in the US?
Oh yeah, it feel like I already made that decision. Um, but I think if it was something other than energy and clean energy and the field I'm living with, I would be more inclined to the UK style of living.
Mm.
Um, but what the US provides is really um, a lot of things. Access to access to capital, access to talent, passionate people around you
Mm.
that encourage you, and whether they're directly partnering or they're competing with you and make you better as a company and
Mm.
as a team. So that's really
Mm.
what exists in the US more so than any European country, I feel.
Mm. Mhm. And would you ever plan on going back to the Middle East and building it there?
I would love to. Middle East is home, and it's yeah, it could use a lot of the best and the best technology out there, and
Mm.
trying to really develop it and trying to steer away from
Mm.
fossil fuels and oil and gas and things like that, and uh, standing up countries on its own 2 feet rather than relying on other countries.
Mm.
Uh, so it's funny, a lot of clean energy is political. People
Mm.
don't really think about it, but if you have a country um, that has its own resources, has wind, has solar, can generate your own energy, then you really don't rely on any other country.
Mm.
And a small example is what's going on in Russia, the Ukraine, and Europe right now is that Russia supplies 40% of the European Union's gas. And
Mm.
so that plays a huge dynamic in, no, I can't do certain things because if I do X, then
Mm.
Y happens. Um, so a lot of clean energy is about energy independence, and that's how it started.
Mm.
And that's what kicked it off. It's not because of I want to reduce emissions, I want to do this. Like, no, it's because of
Mm.
energy independence, as we call it. So
Okay.
it's very interesting.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So let's talk a bit more about Forbes 30 under 30.
Sure, sure.
How did you end up getting nominated and how did you end up like getting to that position? Was it something that you ever wanted to do or did it just happen and you're grateful for it?
Yeah, Forbes 30 under 30 is uh, so the way Forbes 30 under 30 works. There's different Forbes. There's Forbes
Yeah.
North America. There's Forbes Europe, and there's Forbes Asia,
Mhm.
and then a bunch of other Forbes for different countries, different regions,
Mhm.
like the Forbes Middle East or something like that. So depending where you're living, you get to be nominated Forbes US or North America, Asia, Europe. Every year they come up with the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and you can either nominate yourself or somebody can nominate you.
Mhm.
I had a few colleagues nominate me for this year, for 2022, and it's they nominate me, and then I get an email like, hey, congratulations, somebody's nominated you. Here's an
Yeah.
application where it's like a college application. Like, we
Yeah.
love to learn more information about you. Please send us links, send us this. What do you think about that? Um, and then they go away for a few months, and then and then you get an email. It's like, oh, congratulations, you've been selected as part of the third Forbes
Yeah.
30 of the 30 energy list. And yeah, the way it works is that Forbes 30 under 30, they take 30 people under 30 for different categories.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of categories. There's energy, there's finance, there's entertainment, there's sports. So a bunch of different categories. But yeah, we talked about milestones, and I feel like that's a nice milestone that I checked off, and I definitely
Yeah.
celebrated that milestone
Yeah.
a lot. And I think, like we talked about, it's for me, it was more about, it wasn't about external validation. It was more about, I love the community.
Mm.
So now you're part of a community, and you're along with not just people in energy, but people in entertainment and athletes and singers and songwriters and people that are in fintech, and different people around this that are very, very passionate in
Mm.
their own respects, and
Yeah.
they're doing very cool stuff. So being a part of that community where you can just
Mm.
connect with all these people has been amazing.
That's awesome. And you did mention that you celebrated, so that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of happiness, um, so I'm pretty sure you were like really hyped up when you heard that news. Um, but I think happiness then, like you were happy for what? How many days? Like a few days, and then it kind of faded away. Would you say so?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You want to
Yeah.
elaborate on
Yeah.
that?
It's I think as humans, we're wired to hold on to negative thoughts more so than positive thoughts or
Yeah.
positive news. So uh, it's so funny. Like, if you step outside this morning and you get gum stuck to your shoe, your entire day is going to be ruined because you're going to think
Yeah.
of that for the entire day.
Yeah.
And it's just the way we're wired. And if you get good news, it comes and goes. It
Mm.
really just it comes, you enjoy it, and then it goes away, and then you hold on to negative thoughts more so than positive thoughts.
Mm.
And that's something for me at least, I actively work on. It's like, no, this and this happened. You should forget about this. You should. I read the other day that you should be still in your emotions,
Mm.
and at a certain point, you just stay still. Emotions come and go, things
Yeah.
happen. You should really just step back,
Yeah.
evaluate, and try to take things as they go, and not get caught up in different emotions and different
Mm.
actions that occur during the day or during the month.
Mm.
um, so yeah, it's really interesting how with good news, it comes and goes and you forget about it, and bad news is something that you
Yeah.
hold on to more so.
Yeah. Do you think that happiness is overrated?
um, I think uh, the quest for happiness is overrated. I
Mm.
feel like um, it's, they always say it's not about the end result, it's about the journey. But it comes back to the milestone thing that we were talking about earlier, is that if you think your happiness is tied to a goal that's way in the future, and you try to convince yourself that I'm never going to be truly happy until I get that goal, then no other interim milestone is going to make you as happy as you thought you would be if you got that 100%. End goal. 100%. So
yeah,
it's really important to live in the moment, enjoy, be as happy when you get the major goal, try to be as happy when you get interim goals, and enjoy the successes, and learn from the downfalls, and try to be still a bit, and not get too caught up in emotions and feelings, and try to look forward and not backward.
100%. So would you consider yourself to be happy now?
Yeah, and it's not something that it's something that you work on constantly. It's a mindset that you have to it doesn't come, at least for me, or I think I would argue a lot of other people, doesn't come really naturally, always being happy. Even people who seem to always be happy, it's really not the case. It's really something you have to work on. You have to do a lot of self-reflection. Like, hey, this happened to me. You need to work on it constantly, and that's just my my experience, and what I try to do is that maybe something you had a tough day, and then you try to sit down for a second and self-reflect, and that's how you become. It's like, no, these things happened, and it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and then that you become more happy and more relaxed. But if you're just surrounded by negative thoughts and you're thinking negative thoughts, then whatever happens to you, you're never going to be happy.
Yeah. So what do you have, like a certain routine in the morning or evening, or something that you do to help kind of ground you back instead of being consumed by your thoughts?
Yeah, they always say be present, right? It's when you're working, and when you're not working, you're not working. If you want to say, it's like, hey, it's 7 p.m., it's 8 p.m., I just want to sit alone with my thoughts, no emails, no texts, no phone calls, no work meetings, no nothing, and just be sit down with yourself with no distractions, and like just don't want to say meditate, but just relax and self-evaluate, and try not to have interruptions when you do that.
Do you do something specifically? Like, do you sit and breathe? Do you journal? Is there something specific that you do?
No, but I heard that I was watching a video about somebody who was he said journaling helps quite a bit, but I don't. I should try it though, but I don't. But no, I just what I do is just breathing, really slow down my brain first and foremost, and then just try to sit down and relax. If there's maybe, I don't know, I haven't tried it, but I heard there's like apps and different stuff that people could use to try to breathe in and breathe out and relax them further. Music, certain types of music that relaxes people, and I haven't tried that yet, but I think I should. Have you done anything like that?
Apps, no. Like for me, if my mind is like very anxious and I'm nervous and stressed, like I'm not gonna open an app. Please calm me down. So maybe I should try it. But I did it. Like I didn't try. A lot of people love it. I know there's Calm app that's beneficial. So personally, apps I have not. During university, I feel much less now. Journaling helped so much, like
really?
Journaling and reflecting, and just it helped me understand a life at a deeper level, in a sense where, again, journaling could be something to someone else in a different perspective, a different way. But for me, it was, I think it was a moment in my life where it allowed me or gave me the permission to feel what I'm feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, this is what really happened. Like if you sometimes share with other people or the people who don't quite understand it, it's like, yeah, they're listening and they're gonna judge the situation. But when you're journaling, it's like it happened and this is what happened. And you slowly start to say that, okay, that's my reality. Like it does not have to be someone else's reality. And it just, you write things as they are, as you see them, as your truth. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you kind of journal, it's like you also come across like epiphanies of like, oh, okay, makes sense. Oh, I'm noticing a pattern that I'm doing over and over again. Why? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I think it really helped give clarity. And especially like then I was like learning more about the mind and like kind of more observing life, trying to calm myself down and more into like mindfulness and being present.
Mm-hmm.
It helps so much because sometimes things click when you're journaling like this, like something you've learned yesterday with the thing that you learned a week ago, like it still starts slowly building up and make more sense. So I would say this kind of like helped in that way.
Yeah,
So
it's like
maybe
a
journaling.
self-evaluation tool, you know?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
forces you to study yourself and see what you
Yeah,
try to improve and what not. So it's yeah,
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
great.
Um, so few more questions, but one question is,
Mm-hmm.
what are some like beliefs that you had, things that you believe are so true and so real when you were living in the Middle East? And then when you traveled, or actually not necessarily in the Middle East, but when you were like in school, high school, what were like certain belief systems that you had that changed when you went to university or when you traveled to the US or to the UK, or things kind of shifted around for you? um yeah.
Yeah, in we went to the same school, and
Yeah.
it could be very tough at times. It's
Yeah.
very forces you to be very studious.
Yeah.
Um, so I think in school it was really, I felt like I didn't have time to think about that sort of stuff. It was always uh, you're on a certain schedule. You're doing this. You're studying to get good marks to graduate, and then to get the end goal is like get into a good university, and then you don't really think further than that. It's like no,
Yeah.
the first the next goal I need to do like SATs. I need to do O levels, A levels, whatever, get into good university. Um, and you know, and that's when we're talking about happiness and
Mm,
like okay, that's going to make me happy getting into a good university, and because that's going to set me up for life. um is it the case that I would have enjoyed school more, like school as in high school and middle school and things like that, enjoy it more and get lower grades and just enter into any university, like an average university or below average university?
mm,
Would I be more happy?
mm,
Or would I be where I am today? It's hard to tell.
mm,
But yeah, it's just the mindset that we had, and a lot of people had it in Jordan in our schools, where oh, you're going to be successful if you leave the country and go to another. You go to a university in Canada, in the US, and the UK. Um, so we were just, for me, I was just consumed with that thought, and a lot of our colleagues and people in our class were consumed with that thought, and it's a scary thought. I feel like it motivated a lot of people. It's out of fear rather than like, no, I want to pursue further education at this university. It was more about, no, if I don't, this is going to happen to me, and I can't go where I want to go. Uh, so yeah, I don't know what
yeah.
your experiences has been like.
Yeah. No, it's so stupid how we used to think that this was our world, like that was our reality. That's all we wanted to do was like it's all we focus on. Like we'd study all the time and we had no life. Like you have no time to try other things out. You're around the same groups of people, so there's no change in mindset. We're not familiar with like reading. Reading is not a thing. Like it's like we're living in this closed world. And I noticed when you travel, it's like you're more exposed to different things and things that make more sense to you, or you find yourself driven towards or excite you, that show you parts of you that you never knew existed, or you didn't quite understand why you behave a certain way, and finding things that explain your behaviors, or explain your interests. I found that very cool. But I mean, what would you say, like an immediate change in belief system that you had? Like, what is a belief system that changed for you when you traveled abroad? Yeah.
I think it's maybe not the belief system, but just exposing yourself to different people and the way they do certain things. Staying in the theme of education, I think the primary role of education and educators is to make you love learning. I mean, that's the primary goal of a school or university. Make you love learning, so that they don't need to spoon feed you information. They really want you to go figure out for yourself, go read, and that's how university is. And when you're introduced to university, and like you said, in school, you're in this sort of bubble. People are going in the same path because primarily they laid this path for you. It's like, hey, if you do all these things right, this is the end result. This is what you want to do. So you're really confined and like, okay, I can't go outside these boundaries. And when you go to the university, I was like, oh, hey, people are doing this in different ways. They're, they're studying in different ways. They're doing extracurricular activities, which is, they're coming at it a different way. They have a different mindset. So you really see the range of people and how they tackle problems, how they think about their certain stuff, how they carry themselves, what their character is. And then you figure out what's important and what's not. And that you figure out, like, oh, maybe being studious and studying for 40 hours a week isn't really the right path if you want to really develop yourself as a human being and learn more about different fields. And so really, that's an eye opener. That was an eye opener for me. Is that getting introduced. The more people you get introduced to, the more thoughts that you they share with you, and it really changes the way you think about the life in general.
Yeah. Awesome. I have so many questions, but خلاص, I'll end this one. The final question is, what does success look or mean for you?
Success, I think, is, and it's so funny how we tie success with happiness, but it's, I think success on a business level is, for me, it's really not about monetary things. It's more about impact for me. It's about creating a company or a platform that can really impact change. And it is doing so on a project level, like a small level, but creating a platform that people buy into, and it starts snowballing from there and creates bigger and bigger change. And you start with a small team, this team impacts a bigger team, and that team impacts another team and other people, and having that snowball effect to impact change in this climate and this for climate change and emissions and all the stuff that are impacting us negatively. I think the more impact I have, the more happy I'll be in terms of just seeing it's like, no, this is something that I created and it's just impacting people in a positive way. That's what I would define as successful. It's not a point in life like, oh, when I reach this point, I'm going to be successful. It's more about the successes that it creates with time as these things develop.
But that's on a business side. On a personal level, what is success for you?
Personal level, it's about it's about working in it's about working only on the things that make you happy, and getting to that level of happiness and comfort with yourself, that you're not trying to prove anything to anybody. You're well situated. You don't owe anything to anybody, and you're not outward looking, you're inward looking, and all you care about is yourself and self-development and trying to be the best version of the person you can be. That's things I constantly think about, and that I try to achieve. And I think that brings about success, is just reaching a place where you really things that other people say, don't impact you as much. And you're just on a different level than everybody else. Just nothing phases you, and all you care about is yourself. Not in a way that's conceited, but in a way that's you put yourself first, and before other people. And I think that's a success.
To some, they might consider that selfishness, but very few kind of understand that.
It's a fine line. You need to take care of yourself before other people, in order to take care of people in the long run. So, and that's another thing that's a balance that people work on every day. It's like, okay, do I drop everything and help this person, or do I help them a little bit, and balance that with my own life? So it's something that people need to work on every day, and and that's that.
So do you consider yourself successful now?
I do. I think there's a long ways to go, and I'm always motivated by future goals and future milestones, future successes. But yeah, going back to our points, I feel that I am successful, and I'm happy with where I am today. Obviously, there's a long way to go with what I want to achieve, and I'm driven and I'm hungry. But I feel like I've achieved a bit of that success. But yeah,
amazing. And
long
for
way to go, though.
Everyone listening here, how can anyone support you? How can anyone learn more about you, your work, and what you're doing?
I would encourage people that are. You don't have to be interested in clean energy, but if you're interested in entrepreneurship, if you're not interested in entrepreneurship, if you're interested in just what you're doing and how to improve yourself, I'm very accessible. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, on social media. I'd love to learn about, meet with new people and exchange ideas, and try to help wherever I can. And I'd be happy to do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Yazan. It was a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you.
And for everyone listening, I hope you have an amazing, awesome rest of your day.